First up, he is a former real-time real reporter who is a contributing editor at Rolling Stone and author of Griftopia. Our friend Matt Taibbi is here. Hey, Pally. How you doing? Good to see you. Okay, well, this is the new issue of Rolling Stone. I love you, your writing in Rolling Stone, and your article, How Wall Street Crooks Evaded Jail, Why They Didn't Go to Jail. I didn't read it because I have Bieber fever, and I only read about, so why don't you tell me why, just sum it up, because reading is so tedious.
I know, it's so hard. All those words in a row.
If it's not more than 140 characters, I really can't be bothered. But why didn't Wall Street go to jail? Because when we were kids, you know, people like Ivan Boesky and Michael Milken in the last financial scandal, they went to jail, but nobody went to jail this time.
Right. Well, I think the simplest way to answer that is with a rhetorical question. I mean, how much drug enforcement do you think there would be in this country if every top-ranking narc in the country had a $2 million a year job waiting for him with the local drug dealer after he left government service? And that's basically the situation we have now.
That's like what goes on in Mexico.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
Well, first answer, why do they belong in jail? I think some people don't even think they do.
Well, all the banks were broadly involved in a criminal fraud scheme that involved selling mismarked mortgage-backed securities. These were toxic, crappy subprime mortgages that they were waving a bunch of phony baloney math over and then selling them off to pension funds and insurance companies and banks in China and Holland as AAA-rated securities.
Iceland.
Iceland,
Remember,
exactly.
Iceland fell.
It's a street drugs scam. It's selling oregano as weed. That's basically what they were doing on a massive, massive scale.
What?
Billions of dollars.
Why do I feel you prepared that analogy just for me? And that if you were like on Meet the Press, you wouldn't say that. But I read, you know, you said one congressional aide said if Lloyd Blankfeld is a...
Blankfein.
Blankfein.
Right.
I get the Jews mixed up. But he said if Lloyd Blankfein had one pound me in the ass for 6 months prison term,
right,
all this bullshit would end.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Put Lloyd Blankfein in pound me in the ass jail for 6 months, and all of this Wall Street stuff would stop, basically.
But they wouldn't really go to the pound me in the ass.
No, they'd go to
yeah.
some country club resort,
right,
with racquetball and all that.
Yeah, right. There's no pounding in the ass.
But I mean,
they
don't even go to the nice jails. They don't go to the only person who went to jail in this entire crisis was Bernie Madoff, and he really didn't have anything to do with this crisis. He was just a run-of-the-mill con man who could have existed at any time.
Right, that's interesting, because I was watching the CBS Evening News the other night, and Katie Couric said, I think she used the phrase, the greatest financial fraud in the history of the United States, and I thought, boy, I bet you Matt would take issue with that description. Not close to the greatest financial fraud, right?
No, I mean, even his colleagues in the financial services industry far outdid Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff was just doing an age-old Ponzi scheme, which was, you know, invented back in the 20s. This is old hat. The other guys on Wall Street were doing it on a much, much bigger scale, and were affecting far more people.
Right. I mean, your article about Goldman Sachs, I'm going to quote this, which has been quoted everywhere. I've read this quote. I mean, when you wrote this, you must have known you wrote a hit. Like when Paul McCartney woke up and he just wrote yesterday. But you said Goldman Sachs, the world's most powerful investment bank, you know this, is a great vampire squid, wrapped around the face of humanity, relentlessly jamming its blood funnel into anything that smells like money. I mean, you can't, no, And there is such a thing as a vampire squid?
There is, and actually it's a very gentle and kind little animal about this big, and I actually got letters from
zoologists. So this is not fair to vampire squid.
It's libelous against the squid, yeah.
That is so wrong of you. But, you know, I was watching this Mubarak situation going down this week. They say they're trying to get the money that he looted from Egypt, and that he put it probably in Swiss banks. But now the Swiss banks have frozen his assets, and I thought he should have put it in Goldman Sachs.
Right.
And I thought, you know, everybody's in this country is like, oh, those primitive Arabs, they loot each other. But, you know, they might get that money back from Mubarak. But the people who looted us
got away scot-free. It's amazing. There are 1 million people in foreclosure in this country, and the guys who sold them those predatory loans are like still living like Pablo Escobar. I mean,
Right.
they got to keep all that money. In the worst case scenario, you know, Angelo Mozillo from Countrywide, he was the only guy who really got punished from that whole universe, and he got to keep 3/4 of his net worth. So, you know, crime does pay in this country.
So who are the Mubarak level looters that you would say? I mean, I'd like you to mention the guy from Lehman Brothers, because as the audience knows, I had most of my savings in Lehman Brothers, and I
Right.
never miss an opportunity to look straight in the camera and go, "Thanks, asshole." But that guy's name was Dick Fold,
Dick
right?
Fold, the
Dick
gorilla they call him.
Fold.
Yep.
What a Dick Fold. And I read he's worth over 500 million.
500 million, yeah.
500 million he got away with.
Right, he cashed out because he probably knew that something was going on, and he told happy investors like you that everything was cool, and you kept your money with Lehman Brothers, and that's how they do, you know?
And what about Alan Greenspan? You're a big fan?
And actually, in my book, I have a whole chapter entitled "The Biggest Asshole in the Universe" about Alan Greenspan. Look, the Fed plays an enormous role. Alan Greenspan played a huge role in the bubbles that went on, in the tech bubble in the 90s, the mortgage
Right.
bubble that we just went through. Basically, every time Wall Street screws up, they get to go back to the Fed and borrow a whole bunch of money for free and start the game all over again. These guys get to go to the Fed and borrow money at 0, and then they lend it out to us at 5, 10. I mean, how much are you paying for your credit card? 20%? And that's free money. It's essentially a giant subsidy system.
And then, you know, they blame the teachers union.
Exactly.
You know, it's all a math teacher in Kenosha who's making 35 grand a year.
Right.
Why can't people see through this? I mean, I know people are dumb. But there's got to be something more to it than that. I mean, it seems...
It's in that particular instance, it's unbelievable that people can't connect the dots. You know, these pension funds that these state workers have, these were the people who were the victims of this mortgage-backed security scheme. These were the places where these banks were selling these toxic subprime mortgages that eventually blew up. The pension funds lost all their money. Now the states have to pay these pensions, and they're broke, and they're blaming the teachers. They're blaming the firemen. They're blaming the policemen, when in fact they were all defrauded by these banks on Wall Street. It's an incredible situation.
Stick around. I may have to go to you in the bullpen later on. Thank you. Matt Taibbi. Thank you. Let's meet our panel.